Hello, everyone. It's Skypank here with our weekly NFL review show. So, obviously, we've just had week 6. If you're watching the video version, you're probably thinking, wow, Adam Martin has got even younger, slightly ginger. No, it's not. It's Ben Isaacs. Ben, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Also, slightly feels like you're underselling it, but yeah, thanks for having
So,
me
you are a
on.
special guest.
Yeah, I suppose I was told the show desperately needed some star power, and I was happy to come in and provide that.
Thought we're going to keep that secret after sitting next to each other at the game yesterday. But of course, we also have the man who started it all, regularly occurring every week, the sexiest man on the F tag, Freddie Hall.
Oh, I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. It sounds like you two had a whirlwind of a game on Sunday. I'm saddened to have missed out. I was not at the game at the weekend or in London. So yeah, it sounds like you both had a lot of fun.
It was
Oh,
good. I think we should just. Sorry, Ben, go on.
I was going to say it was great. It was great seeing Sky's process as well. It's always interesting seeing how people approach these games in the press box. You know,
I'm worried now.
I've been sat next to a lot of different sort of people at these, and sometimes I've been sat next to one where someone just had a beer. Now that was some years back, and that was at Wembley, where some journalists would be able to access a bar and would get a beer and just sit in the press box with a beer, which thankfully won't fly now. But you know, there are certain people who know they can kind of coast by on like talent and charisma, and that's not something that Sky's got to worry about. So he knows that I've got to focus on
Sounds like it's because he hasn't got any.
That's exactly. I was trying not to say the quiet part out loud, but that he will work hard and prepare because you know he can't just wing it. He hasn't really got it in him. So it was nice seeing how hard he was working during the game.
Thank you, mate.
So that he could bring his A game. I mean, you could tell how seriously he was taking it, but how many times he underlined the word dart when Caleb threw an absolute dart, and he's very studiously underlining that. Like, there we go. That was a dart. But yeah, it was great. I mean, I hadn't met Sky until Thursday. He was in the Bears pub. He was coming for one drink. I don't know how many drinks later he ended up leaving.
That doesn't sound like me.
We had a chat there, and then we ended up sat next to each other at the game yesterday. And I think Sky enjoyed being able to watch it next to a Bears fan as well.
Yeah, loved that.
So
that was great. We high fived on a couple of touchdowns. Didn't overdo it.
no,
But yeah, it's been quite the whirlwind. We've gone from drinking beers to me buying your book to us watching the game together. I mean, like I said, I'll read it before next weekend. And it does say in the bio, let's plug it now, right? For anyone who doesn't know the American football revolution, how Britain fell in love with the NFL. I think I've memorized that correctly, right? I know it's next to me, but I didn't want to look to the side. I think I've memorized that correct.
That is it. And I got to say, I love the title, The American Football Revolution. I did not come up with the title. My publishers came up with the title. I can't remember what my original title was. I had a couple of ideas, and they said, would you be open to calling it The American Football Revolution? I thought, yeah, that's much better. Let's just do that. And that was it set. So yes, you were getting it spot on. I appreciate you buying the book. It was just one, even though I'm sure you've got family members and friends who would have appreciated that as a Christmas present. There's still plenty of time.
But there's time, yeah. Before
still plenty of time.
Black Friday sale.
No, it's not going to be in that. I guarantee that. Anything that cuts into my bottom line on that book, I make it clear to the publishers: no discounts, no special offers. Just get that money.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the game because obviously it was a great game, 35-16 to Chicago. Fred, before we let Ben have his mega moment, talk about Caleb Williams. Just what did you think of the game? I have to say off the bat, we spoke about the Vikings atmosphere. I said to Ben, I think the Bears fans were better than Buffalo last season. I think it was the best atmosphere that I've been a part of at a London game. But what did you make of the game itself? Obviously, Caleb had a fantastic day, and it was again another step in his development, right?
That's really good to hear that it was such a great atmosphere because I have a bit of a soft spot for the Chicago Bears because when they came over last time, I did the same thing as well. I was going to some of the pubs and stuff like that, made some friends with some Chicago Bears fans we're keeping contact with now, and we message every now and then regarding Bears and stuff. And then I went to Chicago this summer, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's probably my favorite American city I've been to. So the
You were
Bears
inducted
are
into the Hall of Fame, weren't you?
Say again?
You
I
were
was
inducted,
inducted to
yeah.
the Hall of Fame. Yes, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, you're very right. Or I paid the $70 entry fee and got to have a little knockabout. But there's always time for my jacket. It could be lost in the post. I mean, I for this game on paper, it actually looks very close, but it wasn't. The eye test
No.
it wasn't close. Like this really showed like Caleb coming into his own, I think. And it was definitely sort of there's been doubts of some of the players on this team, DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet I've got in 2 fantasy leagues, so I was like all in on him before the season started. And it's been a slow start for both of them in the first 2 games, but slowly they've got there and they're back into their fighting form. And it was definitely something where you could argue, was it the Bears being really good or the Jags being really bad? But I think the Bears still showed that they've got some fight in this team. 373 total offensive yards and 152 rushing yards in there. Like that shows an identity to this team and shows what they're going to be about and want to be about. So I'm really, really happy for them. I mean, it's tough watching for the Jacksonville Jaguars at the minute. We made a few jokes about Doug Peterson on our WhatsApp, and I said that maybe he'll be in London a little bit longer than the Jags coming here on holiday, and then someone said that maybe he'll be in Jacksonville before the Jags because he'll be happy to be sent back. So it's tough viewing, but you must be massively happy, Ben. It really showed. I think I've reiterated is that there was doubters with Caleb, wasn't there, in the first few games? I think that was started to creep in within the media
This is
and
your
some
moment,
people's
Ben.
minds.
Caleb, 2 touchdowns to Komet, 2 touchdowns to Keenan Allen. Go for it.
I mean, it's a good job that in the press conference you were sat in front of me. Otherwise, you'd have seen me practically swooning when Caleb came in. I was a big Caleb believer, and the first couple of games, they beat Tennessee, but really the defense won that game. Caleb didn't have anything to do with it. The following week, they lost by a touchdown against Houston. It wasn't really as close as that. Deserved win by the Texans. Still, the Bears offense couldn't get it going. The defense kept it close. The following week, things changed. So they lost to the Colts, but they really shouldn't have. They lost by less than a touchdown, and they messed it up on the goal line. They had weird play calls, and then in that final quarter of that game, the offense basically changed. They changed the game plan, and I think in that final quarter, it was something stupid like Caleb had about 150 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And if you look at the stats from that, starting with that final quarter against Indianapolis through to now, Caleb's probably been as good as any quarterback in the NFL right now. He's broken various NFL rookie records, believe it or not, despite all the attention Jayden Daniels is getting. And Caleb has a lot more touchdowns than Jayden Daniels, again, believe it or not. Because I do so much college coverage and so much of the draft, when I hear 2 games into a season, people saying, "Oh, I don't know about this guy," I've just got my head in my hands. There was so much stuff about Caleb. Like, is he a bust? Well, no, he isn't a bust. If he is going to be a bust, we won't know in early September in his first season. But obviously, we live in a hot take culture where people want to be able to say, "Well, look, I said he was a bust," so that you can be proved right further down the line. There was a lot of growing into the role for him because with Jayden Daniels, and we'll obviously we can get on to him. They made sure it was a particularly simple sort of offense, playing to his strength. Cliff Kingsbury has done a fantastic job in making sure that he's put Jayden Daniels in those right situations. With the Bears, they straight away told Caleb, this is going to be a really complicated offense. There's going to be a lot for you to learn. There's going to be a learning curve, but we really think you can get it. And the play calling just wasn't right. It wasn't working. They changed it up at the end of that Colts game, like I say. It then improved, and then there was a little bit of a players' revolt. Certain offensive leaders confronted Shane Waldron and said, this needs to change. And Caleb led that, and they fell in behind him. He was a leader already. We're like 3 games into the season, and they're like, Caleb, we're with you. They got Shane Waldron to tweak things. All of a sudden, they're now one of the top scorers in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly, the NFC North has the 4 teams with the best point differential in the entire league. Absolutely staggering that that's happened. So the Bears are obviously one of those. The things that we saw Caleb do yesterday, and he just improves game on game. So if you were there at that game yesterday and Caleb has an incredible career, at this point, at least, you've just seen the best game of his career. So at least you'll have that. Well, I remember when I saw the best game of his career.
Yeah.
Yesterday. His control of the offense is absolutely masterful. The things he was doing at certain points was outrageous. That first touchdown that Cole Kmet scored, I mean, all credit to Cole Kmet. He just would not score in that situation. But the fakes that Caleb did to make sure that Cole Kmet was wide open was absolutely insane. The sort of thing that we see Patrick Mahomes do. And I'm not going to make those comparisons in terms of talent, but we've seen when he was at USC that he does play a lot like that. He can improvise and he can sell a fake like as good as anyone in this league. Thrilling to watch. I really feel for the Jags fans. I feel for Trevor Lawrence. Doug Peterson is not long for that job. I joked on the way back from the stadium that I think the Jags should just tell him a different time that they're leaving after the Patriots game and just leave him behind.
Sorry, Doug.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember where the Jags are staying, but it will be somewhere lovely, and he can have a lie in that morning. Maybe he'll have breakfast in his room, and then he'll realize, oh wait, there, Shad Khan's Instagram says they've already left Gatwick. What's going on? So the Jags are in trouble, real trouble. They need a rebuild. They need a reset. It's all gone wrong. But clearly for the Bears, the arrow's pointing up. How much we can take out of a game against the Jags, same as the Panthers last week, same as the Rams before that. But what we are seeing is that when the Bears play a bad team, they are beating them up rather than just scraping by. You know, they hammered the Panthers, they hammered the Jags. Yes, both those teams are bad, but you've got to hammer them to really show anything. And they did. It was enjoyable as a Bears fan. It was enjoyable just as a journalist being able to see a quarterback like Caleb develop in that way, growing up right in front of us. Brilliant game, brilliant atmosphere. Like you said, Sky, I agree it was better than the Bills. We're seeing something change in these London games. We're seeing more Americans come to the games. And Sky, when you were in the bar with me on Thursday, it was even busier Friday and Saturday.
It's not a novelty anymore. Yeah, it was just like a massive cohort of Bears fans.
Yeah, it was like 75% Americans in the bar. Like it was so many came over, and we're seeing fewer neutral fans go to those games. I don't know if that's partly a cost thing that people are thinking, okay, well, look, getting into those games at Tottenham especially is so expensive. I'm not going to go to this game. Hopefully in 2 years' time, my team's going to go and I'll push the boat out and I'll go to that. But it meant that it really felt like you were at a Bears home game. So the noise was loud. When the Jags had third down, it was loud. When the Bears scored, it was loud. And then when the Jags scored a consolation touchdown, you could have heard a pin drop.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was eerily quiet. And we were kind of looking around like, this is odd. This is like it's like an odd chill came over the place. And then they went for the 2-point conversion. The Bears broke that up, and then it got loud again because that had happened. So I'm not only excited about the Bears going forward, I'm even more excited about the London games going forward. Because I think they have evolved into something else now, and they feel more like going to a game in America. I realize I've just talked for about 28 minutes non-stop, but I was in a flow, and I don't take that as an apology. It was just a statement that I'm acknowledging what I did.
As long as you're self-aware, that's all that matters. Yeah, more people need to be self-aware. But no, you nailed it. And I think I went to the 2 Patriots games, obviously 09 Bucks and then the Rams one. And because the Patriots at the time, they were probably one of only few teams until this more recent times where you've had that feel of it might be a big following of fans coming over. But yeah, a lot of games, I know players get asked about it, but it's, there's different colored jersey, whatever. And that is nice. It's a different atmosphere for them. But it was something unique about yesterday. It was great to be a part of like actually the Chicago Bear fans have come over. They want to support their team. As you said, we got to see almost the arrival of Caleb Williams, because everyone, you hit the nail on the head again. I know it was the Panthers and the Jags, but these are still professional teams. And if you don't make those big statement wins, then people straight away go, oh, well, he's had a rough start. So it was great to see. I did want to just sort of hone in on the Cole Kmet thing. And Fred, we were talking on the train back yesterday, and I know me and Ben spoke about Kmet, and it almost felt like people forget that he's only still 25. And because of the Bears having the weapons that they do with Keenan Allen getting involved and Adunze and Swift in the run game, almost feels like he has an opportunity now to establish himself as a top 10 tight end, or maybe higher, because he's young, he's got the talent. And like on that first touchdown, like Ben said, he was just bulldozing his way into the end zone. You think this was like, people talk about Keenan Allen's breakout game and Caleb, but do you feel like he might go on to become a big focal point of his offense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always said that I've always looked at tight ends within teams that have a rookie quarterback, because that's why I've taken him into fantasy leagues, and kept him, I suppose, because they need a safety valve. Rookie quarterbacks need one player that they go, right, short yardage, if it gets me out of trouble. The quick read, maybe they can't do the reads quick enough, but they know that their tight end's going to be open, or is at least capable enough, strong enough to keep hold of the ball and fight for them yards. And Cole Kmet is one of them tight ends. He fights for the yards. He's big, he's strong, he's agile, and he's got great hands on him. So I can expect him to be used even more. Like Ben was saying, with Caleb really coming into his own in this game, he may not need the safety valve option now if he's feeling more at home in this offense and more at home with the players around him. But it's still good to have that. It's still worth that, having that when you're a rookie quarterback. And Kmet has been that for several young quarterbacks, at Chicago. So yeah, he's going to continue to keep rising. I think he's a really capable, really capable tight end. And moving forward with Caleb in this whole offense, Keenan Allen's a little bit older. We don't really know how long he is going to be in Chicago for. This could just be a passing visit and then gets moved on again, maybe. DJ Moore seems to be, the guy the guy that's going to be there for a fair few years. Rome Odunze is obviously massively the guy for the future as well. And being 25, Cole Kmet, if he's fit and stays healthy, which he tends to, he could have an even longer career alongside Caleb Williams, who, like we said, the trajectory is going at now. The sky's the limit for this kid. So I can only see his stock going up and up and up, really.
Ben, just before we move on very briefly on the Jags, because I don't want to bore everyone by talking about them too much, but in terms of Kmet being 25, there's obviously Jalen Jones, Kyler Gordon. We spoke about the injuries in the secondary yesterday, but when you've got guys like that who are both, I think one's 24, one's 25, then you've got your Kevin Byards and Tremaine Edmonds, those veteran guys. Just how confident are you in terms of the defense going forward? Because, of course, we can all sit here and it is sort of the media thing to talk about. Even the pressers yesterday, I'm sure you'll agree, all of the questions were directed around Caleb. Even Keenan Allen, who's caught 2 touchdowns, no one really acknowledged the fact that he made those 2 plays almost. It was kind of weird. So, how do you feel about the rest of the roster and just that balance?
The defense. So it got me thinking while I was watching the Ravens Commanders game and Roquan Smith, and how he was such an important player for the Bears, and people were aghast when they moved him on to the Ravens. Now, he wanted a huge extension, and the Bears' attitude was, for the offense we play, we're not going to invest that much money in a middle linebacker. If someone's got a defense where the middle linebacker is going to be such a focal point, then fair enough, but that's not going to be us. So they moved him on. The Bears got immediately worse afterwards. The Ravens got better. He was making so many tackles. And then the Bears did what they wanted to do, which was to bring in Montez Sweat. And I don't recall many times where one defensive player coming in has changed the entire defense. And there are only certain positions that will do that. And if all of a sudden you add an elite edge rusher who's getting double teamed on every play, all of a sudden you've generated pass rush, and the Bears were not getting any pass rush. So if, like, any Bears fan, if they could have Montez Sweat or Roquan Smith, as much as they loved Roquan Smith and the way that he was talking about he wanted to be a Bears middle linebacker for life, there's no better place to be a middle linebacker than the Chicago Bears. No one's got that history. Everyone's going to take Montez Sweat. He changed everything.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's a young core. The secondary is great. They ended the game with 3 starting members of the secondary out injured, but the level of play was still really high. And it's what I think it's the fact it's young and it's being built sensibly. The only aspect of the team that has got me worried going forward is the offensive line. They've had a lot of injuries, and I think there's a lack of talent there. I think they've drafted the wrong people at times. They've had to move people around so much because of injuries. They're actually finding better combinations than when people were in their quote unquote natural position. So I think Bears fans will be excited right now, but they've got to also accept that they're in the toughest division in football. They're still probably the 4th best team in that division, and they've got a really difficult second half of the season. They've still got to play all their divisional games. And I don't think they have their first divisional game until something stupid like week 10. So it's going to be a wild finish to the NFC North because of the way that they're all going to meet at the end. So everything's a bit skewed at the moment. It's the first time since the 2002 realignment that we're in week 6, and a division has got 4 teams with 4 or more wins. But that's in part because they haven't played each other. Because obviously, when they play each other, at least one of those teams is going to get a loss. So that's going to even itself out. So a lot of this talk about can 4 teams make it from the NFC North? Mathematically, yes, but it's unlikely. We'll see where we are. But yeah, it's arrows pointing up for the Bears, but it will get difficult come mid-November.
Fred saw me smirk there with that O2 stat. Oh, so usually me. I'm usually the stats guy. That was great. Loved it.
I'm glad you appreciate that one.
I was there for in one word. I'm going to ask just on the Jags before we move on. If Doug Peterson loses against the Patriots, does he get fired?
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Dramatic pause there, Fred. I like to know.
I didn't know whether you wanted me to answer as well. Ben's the guest. I thought Ben's the guest. He can. I thought you might move on after that. You might not want mine. So.
Of course I do. But yeah, just a quick roundup of some other scores from the early games before we move on to the Ravens and Commanders. Obviously, Adam will be happy. The Packers won 34-13 against the Cardinals. My Patriots lost 21-41 against the Texans. But Drake May actually looks good on the
He showed promise. Yeah. As I said, that's a really tough baptism for him against the Texans.
Yeah.
But it's a lot better than having the baptism against the Jaguars. Not because the Jaguars are any good, but because you don't want to have that weird travel week for his first start. He's going to be a lot better. I'm really excited to see him next week.
You get me
because I think he can be a really good player. He should be the future of that franchise. It's going to be bumpy because there's not a lot of talent around him, but Patriots fans should be really excited to see him against the Jags.
I'm excited. And I feel like 2 teams that are probably not very excited at the moment. I mean, all Eagles fans hate Nick Sirianni, and he was still managed to give it to the Browns fans despite them being awful and just about winning 2016. That was funny to see. And then we had the Colts outlasting the Titans 2017. But yeah, Ravens Commanders, obviously, that was a game which is a lot of people's pick of the week. I think Jayden Daniels continued to look almost like a seasoned vet despite them losing that. The only thing that I did find interesting, though, Fred, was that Dan Quinn said, although we were in it at the end, it felt lopsided. Did you get that feeling as well? Obviously, the scoreline was close. It was just interesting for him to say that.
I think the Ravens we trust. I mean, this is from probably a fan point of view, and when we're watching it visually, not from coach's point of view. But when you look at that game and you see how close it's been, no matter how good the Commanders have been so far, this is Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Like this isn't a team that has just found a trend. This is a team that has been very good for a long time, and a quarterback who is very experienced, and a quarterback who has now gone from a one-dimensional to a dual threat. Like this is a quality team. This is an AFC Championship frontrunner in my mind. And the Commanders, though they have been incredibly impressive, and Jayden Daniels has been incredibly impressive as well, this is new. Like this is all new. Dan Quinn is new. Cliff Kingsbury's new. Jayden Daniels new. They are still finding their feet and they're still finding their rhythm. So, though we could watch them and go like, yeah, but they seem to have figured it out. He's incredible. He's playing incredible. They've got a high level. They're always going to have a chance to win with Daniels, leading this offense. Well, maybe they feel that a little bit like when the Vikings came over the other weeks, guy, and the whole trend was like, we've not hit our ceiling. We're nowhere near as good as we think we should be. That might be the exact same feeling in their camp as well, that we're not where we're at yet, even though we're playing at an incredible level. But it's hard. it's hard to have 484 total offensive yards against you. And I mean, what was this? I mean, it was 13 extra minutes that the Ravens had on the ball and
Yeah.
win. Like, that's hard. Like, when you're 36 minutes against 20, well, just under 24 minutes, like, you can see why you would feel it's lopsided. They're on the ball way more. They were great on third down as well, the Ravens. And Washington couldn't get the run game going, considering they've got a pretty good run game over there at the minute. They're what at the moment? They are. I haven't got the stat actually for where they are running wise. It's lost within my words there, but I know they've been doing pretty well with that, and they
And they've
held them to
improved this
50.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Ravens held them to 52 yards. Like, this team's legit. Like, it's fun, but it was so close. It looks close on paper with 30-23. But this was experience over talent in a way. I would say this sort of game, and that's experience of Harbaugh being there. So I know Dan Quinn's been the head coach, but Harbaugh's been there for so long. He knows his team inside out. They know themselves inside and out. And they had some players who played incredible. Derrick Henry's strength for strength for strength within this team, even though he's great. Zay Flowers had a day, like, what a breakout day. He silenced some critic. Well, he definitely silenced me, because I said the other week Lamar's doing all this with nobody to throw to, really, and he went. So I got shown pretty quickly by Zay Flowers. So yeah, I think that I wouldn't worry about myself if I'm a Washington Commander. I don't worry about myself. They have got a direction they're going in. They're on a train that's heading in the right direction. So you're just saying in this game we came up against arguably the best team in the NFL at the minute. So
Yeah.
I think the Commanders can take a lot of positives from this.
Ben, in terms of the Ravens, I mean, you spoke about Caleb and that overreaction. There was an overreaction from a lot of people, even half myself, on one of the reviews we did when Derrick Henry wasn't getting involved early on. But in this game, it was him again. It was Lamar. I mean, Henry had 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like Fred said, Zay Flowers, I think he had 9 catches and 132 yards just in the first half alone. If the Ravens are to go on and make a Super Bowl, because we know about Lamar's playoff record, is this the blueprint? Derrick Henry, like, just doing what he's been doing, and he's only growing in this offense.
Yeah, I think so. And to be honest, watching the game, Lamar just looked like an MVP again.
Yeah.
The connection that he had with Zay Flowers in that first half, I thought there was something wrong with my feed. I thought they kept showing me the same play, because they just kept going to Zay Flowers, who just kept getting open, making these crucial catches. But this Ravens team does seem like it is set up, to win a Super Bowl. Obviously, that's the goal. That's the way that they've been building. They're bitterly disappointed with how close they came last year, where they just did not look competitive in the AFC Championship game. As far as the Commanders go, I never really felt like they could have won that game, even at certain points where it was level. I just felt like you could see that the Commanders were viewing the Ravens as a benchmark, and that they were not at that level. They played really well. They played tough. You could see the difference between Lamar and Jayden, but Lamar played so well. Going back to Roquan Smith as well, there was a kind of battle going on with Jayden and Roquan Smith. In fact, the whole Ravens defense, it really is what I mean, where the intelligence that Jayden has to be able to kind of lead defenders a certain way, and Caleb was doing it as well, is fantastic. He's showing maturity beyond his years. It's really fun to watch both these teams. I think these are probably 2 playoff teams. The Commanders are not in a particularly good division. You'd fancy them to do it. But in terms of Jayden Daniels, the best thing was the Ravens took away the run, and it was they took away all avenues, and it meant that Jayden Daniels wasn't able to get anything going, and he was forced to just be a passer, and he just stepped up. So if anyone was thinking, oh, well, what happens if he can't use his legs? Well, he'll just do this as well. He'll just be accurate. His timing will be great. He's got a great connection with Terry McLaurin. It's going so well for Washington, and I'm really pleased for their fans, because I don't think any set of fans has actually, in this century, had it worse than Washington. And I'm sure Browns fans would say, what about us? But all the Dan Snyder years, I know of Washington fans who felt like, I kind of love this team, but I also kind of hate this franchise.
Yeah.
And I know people who refuse to buy any merchandise, who now must be so excited with what they have. They're not just fun to watch, but it feels like they're being built the right way. They are going the right way. And it's a joy for everyone. We all get to enjoy it, perhaps unless you're an Eagles, Cowboys, or Giants fan.
That's fine. We don't want them to be happy anyway. Fred, I don't know, we could talk about the Ravens all day, but just to, I guess, before we move on to, obviously, speak of the Cowboys, them getting absolutely blown out by the Lions, do you agree with Ben's assessment with the Commanders being a playoff team? Because obviously the next 3 games are Panthers, Bears, and Giants, but I think that's like a wide, thought now by everybody, sort of like, well, he's legit, and like Ben said, the division's weak. Like, and people forget that Brian Robinson was out yesterday. I know, obviously, you spoke about the possession and the yards, etc. I think maybe for Jayden Daniels, like you said, he's probably coming out of it being like, well, my top running back was out. I'm still doing fine. So do you think they're in a good place to go on and still make the postseason?
Oh yeah, for sure. They are definitely in a close battle. I mean, like I said, with the NFC North, you've just got to see how that pans out. In terms of that teams that are going to be in and amongst the mix. I know all 4 of them are sort of competitive in the minute, but that could be 3 of them or 1 of them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Cowboys after yesterday, and the Giants ain't a bad team, but I don't think they're not getting to the playoffs. So then you could argue the Eagles maybe, but everyone's a little bit out. If Sirianni doesn't keep his job, then that would be flips into the Commanders definitely going to win the division and everything like that. You look over in the West and you think, well, 49ers not playing to their maximum level. The Rams are all right. The Cardinals got sort of handed to them this weekend as well. They're maybe not as prolific as we have been saying about. And then you look in the South, and the Falcons are sort of find their stride now. The Bucs have been fantastic. So yeah, this Commanders team has beat some of these teams, and they will beat some of these teams moving forward. I'm dead excited. I'm so excited for Jayden Daniels in this moving forward. And Ben was right; he was fantastic in the air as well with throwing. I just think the Ravens were maybe a little bit too high a level for him to overcome, I suppose. But yeah, the sky's the limit for them. I think even if they don't get to the playoffs this year, Ben's right with how upset the Commander Nation has been for this century. Like, even if they don't get to the playoffs, I would see every Washington fan being like, yeah, but this is an incredibly positive season. We see where we're going. We know where we're going.
Exactly.
I don't think it defines their season getting to the playoffs.
No. And this is one other thing on the Ravens and the kind of the weird start they had to the season. And I think we're going to start to see this every year now. So the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, especially, incredibly unpredictable. Anyone who's trying to pick games against the spread will see that, but there are so many upsets. And what we're seeing is fewer starters getting reps in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
So those first 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season, players are in effect having their preseason. So there are so many players who were not great the first couple of weeks, a lot of offenses that were not great the first couple of weeks, or some that were, because their preseason had gone a bit better. And now, look at the Saints. You look at that Saints team against, say, the Ravens, and how you might have judged that after 2 weeks of the season. The Ravens have had their preseason now. They're playing properly. It's big boy football now, and they're going to be difficult to stop.
That was a big statement. I like that. And yeah, the Saints, well, we won't dwell on them. But I'm kind of, it sounds really horrible. I'm kind of glad now that everyone sort of got off that trail. I was like, really? Come on. Like,
well,
yeah.
I mean, the thing is that if you're a Saints fan thinking, oh God, the wheels came off that bandwagon pretty quickly and pretty spectacularly. I've been talking a lot about Spencer Rattler, and I've talked a lot about him during the draft process.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I wanted the Raiders to draft him. He felt like a Raiders quarterback. They needed a quarterback, and it felt like he could fit the mold. He can be a gunslinger. He can make some bad decisions. He can be erratic, but he can also be fun and exciting. And I really felt that, like Drake May, it was not a great first starting spot for him in that game. And he had some pretty awful plays, but he also had some really good plays.
He came out hard, which was,
yeah. So I think there is a strong possibility that he can be the future starting quarterback there. I think he's shown something. And I think the Saints were never as good as those first few weeks made it look like they were. It was a bit of a mirage. but it'll be interesting to see Spencer Rattler's development. There's a lot of really interesting rookies around right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them.
Yeah, well, obviously they were blown out by the Bucks with the Chargers. Another game where the scoreline was deceiving. I mean, the Broncos rallied and got 16 at the end and only lost by a touchdown. Fred, as we mentioned, your Steelers 32-13 beating the Raiders. So, quick assessment, you must be happy. 4-2.
Yeah. I mean, we look way better. We did look way better than we did
Yeah.
against the Colts, and the Cowboys obviously quite a close contest in the end. But I had like every confidence we'd be okay. Yeah, Aiden O'Connell still finding his feet, and it was Najee Harris's best game. That was like my biggest positive was it was Najee Harris's best game, and he needs one of them games where he sort of like breaks out in a way. So I'm really glad for him. This defense is still solid, and we weren't worried when they've not got Devontae Adams, when they've not got Jacoby Myers. I mean, Brock Bowers looks well.
Yeah,
We know he was going to be legit, but he looked legit in our game, which was a worry for me. Is that maybe our secondary would maybe get taken advantage of because it isn't the greatest. But yeah, no, nice to be back on winning tracks. It feels weird being 4-2, but not being that
You're both
excited
4-2.
in a way.
Bears and Steelers 4-2.
Very different 4-2s, though, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
Very different 4-2s.
Yeah. But it'll all come out in the wash, especially when both have played more divisional games. I mean, I don't know where I stand on this Steelers team. I feel like most games they're going to go into, they can win it, but I don't really like what I've seen, and I'm a huge Justin Fields apologist, but he does have a ceiling, and it can be difficult. But that division is interesting because we know the Browns are absolute excrement. The Bengals have underachieved so much, but there's so much talent there. And you've got the Ravens, who, as we've all said, are possibly the best team in the NFL. But there's second place is up for grabs, and second place could well be a playoff spot.
Well, luckily the Bengals did beat the Giants, so that didn't ruin my evening. That was nice. And the Falcons beat the Panthers. But we will move on to the Lions winning 47-9 against the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I don't even really know where to start with this, considering the Lions were so dominant, and we've been down this road before of where did Dallas go. I think the biggest one was, what was that play that Goff threw? There was a little trick play to the O-lineman, and I was like, wow, Dan Campbell really must hate Dallas. This is getting like, it's just rubbing all sorts in any wounds. Yeah. I guess the main thing to touch upon there was obviously, unfortunately, Aiden Hutchinson, season-ending injury. Marcus Davenport hurt his elbow earlier in the season against the Cardinals. The main thing I want to ask both of you is, we could sit here and talk about how great the Lions are, sit here and talk about, how impressive Jared Goff and the offense was, but I sort of earlier was thinking to myself, they're definitely going to make the playoffs. They're still probably everyone's picked to win the North, but we talk about defense winning championships, and when you don't have Aiden Hutchinson in the playoffs, I think that's going to hurt them down the line. I don't know if it's
That's what I've got written down. Basically, if I was a Lions fan and I could go back in time and change the outcome, I'd rather lose that game and keep Hutch, because if they'd lost yesterday, I think they still win the division. Now, do they win the division? I don't know. I even though the Vikings have been unbeaten and have looked really good, if they were playing yesterday, I would have absolutely made the Lions my favorite for that. If they were playing next week, probably not now. Probably not, because he is the Lions' best player. Not necessarily the most important player, because I think if Jared Goff got injured, I think then you've got major problems, because, that's the quarterback. But the thing with the Lions is, if you put their starters up against pretty much any other team, I think they're as good as anyone. Once you look at their depth, then it makes me a little bit nervous. They are very top-heavy, and I think that's by design. They have been prepared to pay a lot of money. To go back to another player that the Bears decided, that's not a premium position for us. We're not going to pay that sort of contract. David Montgomery, who has been absolutely spectacular for the Lions. But I don't think the Bears are thinking, oh God, why didn't we keep him? Because he was productive in Chicago. They just decided, we are not going to pay that second contract. We can get another one of you in the draft if we need one. you can go and earn all that big money. And the Lions have done that with quite a lot of players. Like, these are the pieces we want for this Super Bowl window, and we will pay what it takes. And it can be an effective strategy. But if all of a sudden you lose one of those pieces and everyone else is kind of a bargain basement sort of player, it's very difficult to replace them. And when you're trying to replace someone who I would say right now is Defensive Player of the Year, you've got an issue. He's probably not coming back this season. Maybe he's back for the playoffs. I wouldn't bank on it, unfortunately. I think he's done. They absolutely destroyed the Cowboys yesterday, but it won't be what's remembered for Detroit Lions fans. The Cowboys fans will look at it all very differently. They've got a whole set of issues going on. But for the Lions, it will be the fact that Hutch is gone. What now?
Yeah, Fred, with Hutchinson done for the season, the only sort of, it sounds weird to say the only positive I could find when you've beat the Cowboys 47-9 was Jameson Williams. I mean, again, a player where people forget because of obviously what's happened, that he's only 23. But how much of a difference maker has he been? Because, you know, Amon-Ra Brown had a quiet game but got his touchdown. Like Ben said, we speak about Montgomery and Gibbs, but he's a guy who's just been almost a breath of fresh air to the offense. Obviously, stretch defenses, and he gets his opportunities, but creates them for other players as well. I guess that's the spark now for them. And in terms of the offense is going to have to carry them a lot more so than they would have hoped going forward.
This team will ultimately may become a team where it's like, we can't beat you, but we'll outscore you. We'll just put up so many points that you can't keep up. That may be their MO. That ultimately doesn't get you to a Super Bowl, unfortunately, or a conference championship, but it can get you to the playoffs quite easily. So I'm worried about them losing Hutchinson. I mean, we're going to ask the question on tomorrow's show about, you know, do the Lions pull the trigger and go and trade for somebody who's maybe in the market, which I think they could well do, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, this offense with Jameson Williams, Ross St. Brown, they have got a design, haven't they? They have a blueprint for what type of player they want. They want people who are creative, who are gritty, and who are hungry for it. And, you know, Jameson Williams missed that first season, and then it was injury laden on the second, and then it was a slow start to the beginning of his career, and his career is only just really beginning now, I suppose. And he's looking great for it. And they've just obviously re-signed David Montgomery to a 2-year extension, so he's obviously in their long-term plan alongside Jahmyr Gibbs. They've got a hell of an O-line. We've seen these teams before. The Ravens were this sort of team a few years ago where they were like, we're just going to outscore you, like, while we're building our defense and getting a few more players in and figuring out what we are as an identity, you know, getting back our identity, I suppose, the Baltimore Ravens. So that might be what they turn into. But yeah, real kick in the gut. I think Ben's absolutely spot on that you will look back at this and think we could have won 10-3. And if we'd kept, if we had Hutch, it doesn't matter about the scoreline at this point for the Lions. It matters about losing such an influential player like that. But yeah, sticky situation for the Cowboys at the minute.
Well, just to go back to Hutch. I mean, there will be players out there who will be trade bait, who would think
about them.
Yeah, like they'll feel like if they're on a team that they know is heading for a rebuild. Let's say you're someone like Jadeveon Clowney, and obviously he's not at Hutch's level and he's a lot older. But if you're someone like that and you think, you know, yeah, I could go for a spot on a team that's got its Super Bowl window wide open, and, you know, I might win a ring and I'm going to be surrounded by other good players. But the problem is it's a seller's market, because people will know if once the Lions start making inquiries, it's like, oh, the Lions must be desperate because they don't want to lose a season because of one player. And I'm not saying, oh, well, the Lions can't win a Super Bowl because they haven't got Hutch, but he is their best player. So it is crucial. But you are not going to, even if you're not like even a conference rival, you're not going to let someone go on the cheap, because if you are rebuilding, your whole thing is, I've got to get plenty of value. And if they overpay, then they've got to kind of pay that cost further down the line. The Lions have been really good drafting, but something like if they have to give up a second rounder for somebody, that's someone who is probably going to be a starter, a long-term starter on a cheaper contract. All of a sudden, they've got someone who's not going to be a long-term starter on an expensive contract. And it all causes a problem further down the line. I hope the Lions can figure it out, because they've been so much fun to watch. And it would be a sickener if that just unfortunate injury ends up costing them a shot at it.
I was just thinking then, whilst you both mentioned about trades, how funny would it be if they went and got Trayvon Walker, considering that he was picked before it? I mean, the Jags, if they lose next week, or even just trying to scramble my brain for players.
That'd be an absolute blockbuster, wouldn't it? That one.
Yeah,
if
something
they
like
did something
Uche from us, though. You know, the Patriots, we're in a rebuild, and he had a double-digit sack season a few years back. There probably are players out there, like Ben said, that they could get on the cheap. But yeah, there's also a couple of comments from Kerry that I haven't read out. She said earlier on, I felt like I was at Soldier Field, so we weren't the only ones. And saying Dallas losing always makes me chuckle. I feel more for Tom Brady having to watch that bleep week in, week out.
Well, yeah, that says something about the broadcast schedules. Yeah, the Cowboys. Have you ever seen, really, considering not many people were saying, "Oh, the Cowboys, they're my Super Bowl pick." It's not like people going into the season thinking, "Oh, they're as good as the 49ers," or "They're as good as the Cowboys." Literally, no one was saying those things. But for a team that's 3-3, so they're still at 500. How many people are looking at that team thinking, this is an absolute disaster? Do they need to have a total rebuild? And they're 3-3. They're 3-3, and people are feeling like it's all over for them. But nothing has really felt right. And they've lost every home game this season. They lost a home game in the playoffs last season. So it's something silly like 4 home defeats in a row. It is bad, and it looks bad for McCarthy. I think that was their biggest defeat at Jerry World. It was humiliating, and the Lions did seem to be trying to rub their noses in it. It wasn't like, let's pull the starters and not get anyone hurt. It was, no, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna score points. We're gonna do this.
Yeah,
they were trying to humiliate them, and I'm absolutely fine with that. It felt petty. I'm fine with it because they just felt like there was a bit of an edge there, and I liked it. And I think the Lions really wanted to make that statement, and the Cowboys just then couldn't stop them. So the Cowboys pulled their starters because it was like, well, this is game over anyway. I don't know where the Cowboys, go from here. Even though that's a weak division, they just don't look right, and they haven't looked right all season. That game against the Steelers could have easily lost that. Their best looking win of the year was against the Browns, and now we know that the Browns are terrible. So what are the Cowboys right now? What is the point of the Cowboys right now? Like,
that's so funny, because that's what you were saying. Like, they're 3-3, they're 500. The biggest difference between them and every other 3-3 team is they don't have an identity. What's their identity? Like you said, what are they? What's the point? Like, is it what, CeeDee Lamb? That's your identity, CeeDee Lamb. Like, you can't run the ball. Your defense isn't playing well at all. Pretty much the rumor in the air is you're not going to pay or extend Micah Parsons, or you may or may not. Then he goes. I mean, what are you, CeeDee Lamb, and that's it. Like, it's that's what must be frustrating for the Cowboys fans at the minute, is not having that identity. And then, like, we've pulling back to the Commanders, a team that, like we said, if they don't make the playoffs, the Commanders fans are still going to be really happy because that team's got an identity. Team's got direction. This team at the minute, zero direction, zero identity, and that's the biggest thing that frustrates fans, I think.
Yeah, spot on.
I feel like Ben read my paper, though, because I wrote down Prescott threw 2 interceptions in the worst home loss since 1988 for the Cowboys, who became the first team since at least 2000 to trail by 14 or more points at halftime in 4 consecutive games on their home field, playoffs included. Yeah, which sets me up for the stats. The stats segment. Ben, I feel like I probably didn't prepare you or warn you enough about this. So I saw you had pen and paper. I usually give Fred and Adam 3 stats, and one of them is incorrect or has been tailored to catch you out. Okay. So I've got 3 for both of you. We'll go through them, and then we can move on to Monday Night Football. So let me know when you're ready, and I'll read them out.
Oh, I'm born ready, mate.
So Derrick Henry became the first player since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2005 to score a rushing touchdown in each of his first 6 games of a season. That's number 1.
Mm-hmm.
See Fred racking his brain.
Or Googling.
Wondering if I'm right.
I am admittedly on my phone, but it is to write the notes down.
That's
Can't cheat.
Number 2 is Caleb Williams is the second rookie quarterback selected number 1 overall to win 4 of his first 6 career starts in the common draft era.
Can you say that one again? Sorry, other listeners. Can you say that one again?
No, of course. Caleb Williams is the second rookie quarterback who was selected number 1 overall to win 4 of his first 6 career starts in the common draft era.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is Jared Goff, who had 155.8 rating in week 4, is the second quarterback in NFL history to record a passer rating of 150 or higher in back-to-back starts.
Okay. Those all sound very plausible.
Yeah, done my job.
My problem is when you say like first person since it, then I start going like, yeah, but what about that? Like I start listing names in my
you
brain
did that
going
last
like,
week. I had to
yeah.
show Ben the clip when I thought of Michael Vick on the spot when I changed the Lamar
That
one.
was seriously impressive, Ben. Like, I put him dead on spot anyway, Michael Vick, and it was like perfect response, and that was the lie. And I was like, wow, he like stone cold, didn't even think about it. Wow, what else? What else are you lying about if you're that good at it? I mean,
we were talking Vic on the tube yesterday, weren't we? Just kind of gushing about peak era Michael Vick. Okay, I can't think of another number 1 overall quarterback rookie who's won 4 of their first 6. So the only one that's I mean, so I'm going to say that's the one that isn't true. I know that Caleb's won 4 of the first 6, but I just can't think of who else will have done it.
Did Andrew Luck start with a bang?
Did I tell you my Andrew Luck story about me and him talking about his first start? It is not for while we are recording, but it's about the start of his career. We had a fun little interaction, him and I.
I look forward to that. But that was a great year. Him and RG3, obviously, and I don't know if it was Wilson the same. They were sort of the trendsetters of like teams weren't getting more than 8 wins with rookie guys. But sorry, I shouldn't chime in because it sounds like I'm trying to throw you both off. So
no. Luck wasn't the number 1 overall pick either, was it? It was RG3. I thought it was number 1 overall pick.
Luck was number 1. Luck was number 1. Luck was number 1, wasn't he? RG3 was 2. Because they were no, but he had a career. Anyway, I'm going to say that the Caleb fact is the one where you have twisted something.
Fred?
But it's based in truth.
I think I'm not going to go the same just to be a bit different. I'm going to go for the Derrick Henry one, actually.
I'm trying to drum roll. That's my picking it up. I need to buy a drum. I've already got a whiteboard and Ben's book, so the next edition is going to be a drum.
A little drum.
Ben's correct. He's caught me. I have to send them to him weekly now, aren't I? Just to see, just get an insight. I'll do it on video call though. He's the first person ever.
He's the first. Yeah, I couldn't think of someone else who'd done it. That's not to say they hadn't, but I couldn't think of anyone because like winning 4 of your first 6 is actually really difficult.
Impressive.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit skewed because obviously usually the team that picks first overall is the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
But the Bears were clearly not last year. They got that first overall pick because the Panthers are inept on the field and in the front office. So he had that advantage. Most number 1 overall picks don't have Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and DeAndre Swift helping them on the offense.
I have some notes though. So obviously from that Derrick Henry one, when I was researching, Tomlinson got 25, the record in that season. Henry's on 8, and with that extra game, I was sort of wondering to ask you both: could he break LT's record?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no.
Obviously, Tomlinson had Philip Rivers, so it wasn't. Yeah,
exactly. He was just so much of the focal point running the ball, and things would go through him so much more than they do with Derrick Henry. It's a difficult one to break, I think, for a running back right now because I don't think the running backs get enough of the carries on a lot of those teams.
But Fred, you nodded. I think it is possible, but I get what.
I
Obviously,
think if
Lamar's
there's anything running back that makes the most of the limited touches, it is Derrick Henry in this
Yeah.
league.
he's
Like
probably the last player
if there
currently
was
that can
one,
break it, right?
yeah, and you know, he's it's becoming more of a split offense. This offense, right? I know they've gone back to more Derrick Henry centric in a way, but you know, they're still throwing the ball quite a lot. Like I don't know, like he just makes the most of. I mean, they're going to come up against a team who is really good up against the run, but you know, goal line. You see goal line scenario, and you just can see Derrick Henry doing it, can't you? So, plus, everyone loves a record being broken. Everyone loves that.
Yeah.
You know, well, I don't. And here's why. I am sick of records being broken because it's a 17-game season
Yeah.
now. And people talking like, if he beats it by one, like, oh, look, he beat that record. Yeah, but he had to have an extra game to do it. And it's skewing so many
Yeah.
records. It
I know
bothers
what you
me.
mean.
And I'm sure that way back, if there were podcasts and there was me, it would be, I can't believe the NFL's gone to 16 games from 14.
Yeah.
It spoils all the records. But a lot of the Bears passing records go back to the 14-game season. So Caleb's going to sail past those pretty quickly.
Well, the other thing, just to let you know, the other quarterback with that Jared Goff one was Drew Brees. He done that in weeks 10 and 11 of the 2018 season.
I feel like I knew that in a way. Which season was it again?
2018 season.
Yeah, so I remembered someone having an incredible passer rate in 2 games in a row from another season, but it couldn't. I wouldn't. It'd been dartboard of who it was. You know.
Yeah. But fair play to Jared. But we'll move on to Monday Night Football. It's a good Monday Night Football tonight with the Bills on the road to the Jets. I guess the main thing to ask you both is, well, yeah, Ben, let me know about Aaron Rodgers. What's going to happen now? Is there going to be an offensive spark for New York fans now that Robert Saleh's gone?
I think what we can, I mean, yeah, clearly Robert Saleh, the defensive-minded head coach who had very little to do with the offense, we can only assume that he was the problem on the offense. He was the reason that Aaron Rodgers was staring down receivers, had no chemistry with his wide receivers, was overthrowing his wide receivers. It can only be down to Robert Saleh. I can't see any other person who could be responsible for any of that. It can't be Aaron Rodgers because nothing has ever been his fault. It can't be Nathaniel Hackett because Aaron Rodgers got him the job. So we know neither of those can be to blame. So it must be Robert Saleh. So we can assume the Jets will win every game from here on in, because why would they not? Aaron Rodgers will lead the league in passing touchdowns, passing yards. He already obviously holds the NFL record for most games with unnecessary passive aggression towards his teammates. I think that record will continue to. That's never going to be broken. That's an absolute all-timer. The Jets are a mess. The Jets are an absolute mess. The whole firing was a mess. I don't necessarily disagree with the firing, but I think the biggest change they needed to make was the offensive play caller. They've done that. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers had Robert Saleh fired, but I think we all know that if he wanted Robert Saleh to stay, Robert Saleh would have been staying.
Yeah.
So this is on Aaron Rodgers. He is the quarterback. He is basically the head coach. He is the GM. He is everything. They have given him everything he wants, and he hasn't been able to do anything with it. It would be hilarious for neutrals if they got destroyed by a Bills team with something to prove. But they have had a decent defense, the Jets. I don't see Aaron Rodgers having a fantastic game all of a sudden. There will be points where he does. He was great against the Patriots, and I thought, oh, here we go. We're now seeing him find his stride. And it just to be the Patriots were really not very good. That is a Patriots team rebuilding from the ground up, and he took advantage of it. When he's played better teams, he has struggled for the Jets. I think he could struggle tonight. And I'm kind of in on the Bills here.
Fred, with the Bills, obviously, with them losing to the Texans, if they did lose tonight, to play devil's advocate, and weirdly I picked the Jets, and I've had, after back-to-back good weeks in our pool with double digits, this week I went for too many bold picks, so I won't do that next week. But
and it's been the one week that's been really chalky. Like the favorites have been winning for
I went
once.
Saints, Patriots. That I was doing. I was like, someone's got to win, and it's just backfired. I think I've only got 8 right this week. But if the Bills did lose tonight, both teams are 3-3. And obviously, it's a division where, like Ben said, my Patriots are rebuilding. The Dolphins are awful. So really, that with this firing happening, like Ben said, Aaron Rodgers has been given everything he wants. This is the night almost to prove if there's something in this Jets team offensively. Tonight's the night. I know that sounds dramatic, but it is.
No, that is exactly it. It's exactly it.
It would be quite a statement to silence the critic, wouldn't it? It would be like the biggest. You know, Aaron Rodgers loves to point the middle finger up to the media and society and to critics, and this would be the biggest middle finger ever by Aaron Rodgers to everybody. So he, I've got an AirPod which just ran out of battery, so we just switch over while we're doing that. The Jets for them, this is a must-win, isn't it? Like this feels like a must-win for them because they look so stupid if they go in this game, lose badly, don't and after the firing of Robert Saleh. But I mean, with James Cook, how healthy is he? They've got the best passing defense in the league. Like this could be. I don't think this is as unwinnable as people may make out for the Jets in a way. Like this could be one where they just slip out. I cannot see this being a high scoring game. I don't think it's going to be at all.
Bet the under. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. It's going to be low scoring, gritty, dirty, proper football. I'd like to hope against two teams that have a lot of history. I mean, Buffalo. I mean, statistically, their passing offenses are both really similar, really similar, and yet we would say. We compliment Josh Allen for how his season's going, and we're saying how badly Aaron Rodgers' season is going. So, but stats don't tell you everything, do they? There's the eye test as well. And I think the Jets, they know what they can rely on. It's their defense. They can rely on their defense, and it does a number for them, and it keeps them in games. It's now time for this offense to step up, and what a game to do it in would be against this team.
You know, I talk like you think of like a statement game. This would be a statement game, and I think back to that that famous Monday Night Football game that Brett Favre played just after his father had died, and he had one of his greatest nights ever, and you could see how emotional he was, and it felt like such an occasion. Everyone knew what it all meant to him, and obviously Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers will always be tied together in NFL history and NFL folklore. But imagine if you look at like Brett Favre, and it's very easy to be very critical of Brett Favre and the things that he has done off the field. But let's just putting those things aside for both of these players, just how they perform on the field. If the statement game for Brett Favre is that incredible performance after his father died, but for Aaron Rodgers, it's an incredible performance after he had the head coach fired. It just tells a very different story about two quarterbacks who will always be kind of intertwined narratively.
I love that. You're spot on. Obviously, the Monday Night Football that sticks out in my mind that I mentioned to Ben yesterday is I was asked Fred by Kerry, again, who obviously is watching. She asked me what epitomizes me being a Patriots fan. And I said Tom Brady's comeback game on Monday Night Football against the Bills after his ACL injury. But all of these greats do have defining, obviously, with the careers they've had, especially Brady. It's not just one game, but there are games like Ben mentioned. Everyone knows that game. Brett Favre's father passed. He went out there and every throw for a guy who was known almost for being too much of a gunslinger, and obviously like the Vikings turnover in the NFC Championship game. That game, everything he threw went perfect. But yeah, whilst the two situations are probably not that, comparable emotionally. Maybe this is what gets Aaron Rodgers going. I mean, we know he does some weird things in the offseason. Maybe I don't think he got Salah fired either, but let's just play devil's advocate and say he did. Maybe he's like, right, tonight's the night. I'm going to prove it. And I think what you said, Fred, as well about James Cook being actually healthy. Obviously, he's big for this Bills team. And, Adam's a big Ray Davis fan. He spoke about him a lot in the build up to the draft. But it would be big if he didn't play because the Jets defense is good.
He's slated to play. It's just how healthy is he? That's the thing of it. Is how healthy
is been quiet. I don't know if I'm harsh. I know Josh Allen's doing it with less weapons this year, which seems to be better for their mantra. But Shakir's been banged up a bit as well. Kincaid's not been as productive. So while Josh Allen's your quarterback, you always have a chance of winning. In a divisional game, I just have the feeling that anything could happen tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. If Cook can't do what the Bills need him to do, then Josh Allen is going to be under so much pressure.
Yeah.
So much will fall to him. It does make me a little bit nervous. I just don't trust these Jets. I trust that Jets defense, but overall, I just don't trust these Jets.
Well, it sounds like score predictions then. Well, we know who Ben's going with, so we'll let you go first, Ben. Sounds like you're going to Bill. What do you reckon score?
Yeah, I'm going to go, let's say 17-10 to the Bills.
Fred?
I think 19-14 to the Bills.
That could be a scorigami.
Hmm?
That could be a scorigami. You know, the Lions Cowboys was a scorigami yesterday. I don't know how many
Was
it was.
it?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I saw it earlier and I was like, here we go. I weirdly on the pool have put 39 points for this game because that's the tiebreaker on the pool, isn't it? The Monday Night Football score, which means that if I'm picking the Jets, I've got to go 23-16 Jets. Which saying out loud, I don't know. I guess 2 touchdowns, 3 field goals. Yeah, maybe that's possible.
Believable. It's believable.
Yeah.
It's because it's Bills. It's because Bills defense isn't tip top at the minute, is it?
I don't know what
90
the over-under is, but I wouldn't go higher than 40, 45.
I'll just tell you now, Sky, 19-14 as a score has happened 47 times.
Oh,
There you
it's
go.
common. That is quite
This guy.
common.
And in case you're wondering, the first time was 1922, the Green Bay Packers against, can anyone guess? Okay, it was the Rock Island Independence. I'm not expecting you to guess. Last time was the Texans beating the Titans, Christmas Eve 2022.
Look at that.
I mean, this isn't off the top of my head. I'm not going to claim
No, don't
top
say
of my
that,
head
Ben.
on that.
But the scorigami was the 1087th unique final score. That's the tweet that I liked
Nice.
earlier from NFL
Nice.
Scorigami. But yeah, guys, thanks for the predictions. Ben, thanks for coming on. Of course, we plugged the book at the beginning, but we'll say again, anyone go and check it out. And
Yeah, please do buy as many copies as you like. Christmas is coming up.
remember that's Christmas sale you spoke about is coming as well.
And Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving Friday sales as well. I've got that.
Oh, sales galore.
Yeah, you don't need to discount a product as good as this.
That is true.
You know, it's like I doubt there's
That's the
discounts on
headline of
like
this
Chiefs
episode.
tickets.
That's the quote now for this episode when we finish and we do the little adjustment. They'd be like, that's it. It's in lights. But thank you both, guys. Appreciate your time. And for everyone, yeah, just to recap, Fred obviously be doing our normal chat show tomorrow. We'll have the college show again with Andrew on Thursday. And we'll be back again for the Week 7 review next Monday as well. So stay tuned for plenty more content. Oh, and of course, Patriots Jags in London. Got that as well. I almost forgot about my own team coming to Wembley.
And who? So, Sky, you're going to be at Wembley. Freddie,
Fred will be at
Are
Wembley.
you there?
I will be
Okay,
there.
so
We're the famous New England Patriots, and we're going to Wembley.
Yikes. Okay.
Oh, that gave me the ick.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'm actually really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to seeing Drake May in person. It's nice we've been able to see him and Caleb this season. Jayden will have to wait, but yeah, I think that some people are down on that game because obviously the two teams are pretty poor, but they've both got a lot to play for right now. And Drake May, let's see what happens.
Drake May, baby. But yeah, see you next week for a Patriots win, and have a good Monday evening, everyone.
See ya.